come nostra ospite la regista israeliana Iris Zaki. Mi presento, faremo una doppia presentazione in inglese e in italiano. Sono Chiara Cavialieri, la presidente dell'Associazione Italo-Egiziana Eridanos. Today we have the pleasure of introducing Iris Zaki, an Israeli filmmaker well renowned for her unique documentary style. With a focus on everyday life, her work deals into social and political issues through observation and dialogue with ordinary people. Zaki's films offer a thought-provoking perspective on the world we live in and challenge our understanding of boundaries and identity. Her notable works include Women in Sync, which received multiple awards, and Unsettling, an interactive documentary exploring the complexities of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Director Iris Zaki embarks on an intimate journey with her father, exploring the extraordinary story of her legendary Egyptian singer grandmother, Irs Zaki, in a hybrid cinematic project that crosses nations, cultures, and religions. Welcome, Iris Zaki.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Chiedo alla regia di mandare il trailer.
مش بنعرف بعض. هي المغنية دي اسمها ايه؟ ايوه افتكرت، سعاد زكي.
هيا أبا.
שלום, מה שלומך?
הדמות של סבתא היא לא פתורה לי עד הסוף. זה כמו איזושהי אגדה,
כן.
שאני יודעת רק שיאים שלה.
ضيفتنا مطربة مصرية، المطربة المعروفة والمتميزة سعاد زكي.
أنا غنيت كان عندي 30 أغنية، طلعوا على المسرح. كان عندي مجد كبير في مصر، كان جوزي طلقت غيابي يعني ولا عملت حاجة. وعامل قضية ياخدوا مني الولد، لكن عشان خاطر الولد جيت على طول على إسرائيل.
אצלנו בוחרים וצוחקים יחד במשפחה.
ולازم מנגנון הגנה שריקו כדי לא לעשות בושות.
השם הפרטי שלך היה?
מוסטפא.
שאתה התחתנת עם אמא. היא עוד לא ידעה שאתה מוסלמי בכלל. אתה לא סיפרת לה.
אל תשכחי שהדת שלו כאילו כזו, אבל הוא לא ערבי.
לא.
מוסלמי, לא ערבי.
ولا ما بتقول يعني الولد حاجة أغلى من كل حاجة في الدنيا.
אמרתי לו, איך אתה מעז לעשות דבר כזה? לא אכפת לך מהבן שלך.
אתם חינכתם אותי לא לדבר על זה.
אף פעם לא התביישתי. מה שאני זה בזכות הסיפור שלה.
חמוד.
أنا كل حب الشوشي طول عمري.
אני חושבת בקטעים האלה בסרט, אני אשים מוזיקה של סבתא פשוט, מתנגנת.
כן.
ואז רואים אותנו ככה, מסתכלים על הפסל. יפה?
כן.
So, Iris, what led you to pursue a career in filmmaking, particularly the documentary genre?
When did I start? Like, how did I start it? Sorry.
Yes. What led you? Okay.
Sorry, now I heard it. So actually, I kind of like found myself making documentaries without planning to be a filmmaker at the beginning, because I went to live in London and I started to study for an MA in order to live in London and get a visa. And I came from communication and media studies in my BA. And I decided to make an MA in documentary filmmaking because it was practice-based. And I was thinking that it would be an easier degree to make. And I worked at the time in London at an ultra-Orthodox Jewish hotel as a receptionist. And I made my final project about my conversation with the guests. And I made it in a very, very low-tech, simple style that focuses on the conversation of me and them without a camera person, no crew. And it showed something very different than the usual interview that I really wanted to explore it more and make more films. And I did a PhD about this technique of interviewing. And I made the 2 films that you mentioned before, Women in Sync, in a Christian Arab hair salon in Haifa, in Wadi Nisnas. I was the shampoo girl for 1 month, and I was washing women's hair and talking with them about Israeli politics and about life. And then I made a film in a West Bank settlement as a leftist that really oppose the settlements as an obstacle to peace between Israel and Palestine. But I moved there for 2 months and I made a film. So I think that life has led me to becoming a documentary filmmaker, and I think that it's just that it is the best medium for me to express my opinions and my thoughts and my curiosity of people and societies. I think that the way that, you know, the news and the media and other documentaries, many of them show us people that we don't know and groups that we don't know, is actually very stereotypical and very one-dimensional. So I seek to bring something that is more nuanced, connecting people together, bringing the more everyday life and not the big news story.
Thank you. Your documentary touches on the complex relationship between Israel and Egypt, 2 countries that have a complicated history. How did this geopolitical context influence your exploration of personal and cultural identity?
It's a great question because, so I have my grandmother who was a Jewish singer in Cairo. She appeared in films, even in Salama with Kulthum, who chose her. She was a very promising singer and appeared in films and had a very glamorous life. And my grandfather, Muhammad El-Akkad, his grandfather, Muhammad El-Akkad, was a very avant-garde qanun player, and he followed him, and they were family of musicians. So my father's parents are from Egypt, from Cairo, but my grandmother, because of her life story and the events that took place, ended up in Israel. People that watch the film will know this story. And I basically have a family in Egypt, a Muslim family, that I've never been in touch with. My father once went to Egypt and tried to connect, but he couldn't. He had old numbers and he didn't get in touch with the people. And in my film, I wanted to break this divide and bring my father to our, in a way, homeland. And I was planning to start the journey with my father in Cairo, because this is where our identity begins. But I couldn't go and film in the Cairo. It was very complicated because of the political situation, and also to research and find materials about my grandmother, about my grandfather, to find an archive of the family. They were famous, so there are a lot of materials. So I couldn't collaborate properly as I would with a country that doesn't have this tension, political tension. And I also know that culturally, the people that are from my profession they tend to be pro-Palestinians. And also, even if the diplomatic facade is of peace, we know that it's not a real peace. So it was very heartbreaking for me not to be able to go and film as I wanted. Me and my father finding his birth certificate and going to old places where my grandmother used to perform and seeing their house. And I think that it in a way, it shows that even though the world has changed from the history that my grandmother had to go through, it is not so different. If anything, when my grandmother lived in Cairo, her friends were Muslims and Egyptians, and everyone was together. But when the politics come between people and religions, it's very saddening to me.
Okay, and Iris, through the documentary, you explore themes of love, reconciliation, and understanding. How do these themes intersect with the broader societal divisions and conflicts we see today?
Between Israel and Egypt, or Israel?
But between the world, between Israel and Egypt, or between Israel and Palestine.
I think that, when people talk about politics and about groups of people, it's similar to what I said before about documentaries. They divide things in a very binary way. So you're an Israeli, you're a Jew, you're an Egyptian, you're a Palestinian, but even my own identity shows that wherever there are people mix, and people create music together, and people create life together, like my father. When people get to know each other and live together and go to the same educational systems, and see that the person that they viewed as the other is actually just like them, then naturally there will be connection. The problem begins, as I see it, when we are divided by politicians, and also it is echoed by the media. And then today we see, I see that the war that is going on right now between Hamas and Israel, and I think that what is happening now, it's also a war of images, of narratives. Like there is one right, one wrong, one evil, one good, and people are actually dividing other people more and more. I don't think that is the case with people. Maybe I am naive, but my humanism doesn't see some people as better than others, doesn't think that one religion should become first. And that's the way that I view the world as a person. And I do have in myself a Muslim blood and Jewish blood. And I think that the trying to promote, like you do and I do, messages of connection and of togetherness is the only weapon for us. Weapon is not a good word, but our means to try to stop this division between people.
Yes.
For instance, my audience for my film is in Egypt, as I see it. If you spoke about my film before, I want to show my film to Egyptians, but I cannot do that.
We will do it.
I wish.
And Egypt, I Love a Song invites viewers into a deeply personal journey. What do you hope audiences will take away from the film, particularly regarding themes of identity, belonging, and the complexities of heritage?
Yes, it's exactly about that, the film. It is also about migration. There are a lot of immigrating and migration taking place in the film. So my grandfather moved to the USA, and my grandmother moved to Israel, but there are more stories. And I think that this is like, again, the idea of identity that is complex identity, and it is something that has to break these boundaries. I wish that people would see that how my father's struggle to grow up in Israel with his father's background is like a way to show how society makes you, move away from something that is in your roots. I think that a lot of people can relate to it because a lot of us have mixed identities. You are Egyptian, and you would also always talk about yourself as Egyptian, but you're based in Italy. And the idea of home is something very layered. People are moving around, but there is this very warm place in ourselves. Even now when you played my trailer, I saw my grandmother and I heard her music, and it moved something inside of me, very, very naive and very warm. And when people watch the film, they really connect with my father. I went to make a film about the love story between my grandmother and grandfather, but I ended up, after a very short while, realizing that the real love story is between my father and his mother. And it's about parenting. It's about generations. How my grandmother had to leave Egypt, but it was her home till she died. And my father, in order to belong in Israel, had to move away from Egypt and become a good Israeli Jew. And now me, the third generation, I'm already living here. This is my place. I belong to Israel. I actually want to go back to my roots and explore it. I want to meet my family, my Egyptian family, and to get to know, where they came from. So it's also about generations and about sacrifice, a lot of sacrifice in the film. Because, as you know, my grandmother had to give up on her biggest passion, her music, in a way, in order to be accepted, to survive.
And as an artist and intellectual, which are your hopes for a future solution of the political, economical, and social problems of the Middle East?
Wow, it is such a a complicated question. I can tell you what my vision is, but unfortunately I don't see it happening. My vision is that women will be the ones leading us towards solutions. Because I think that the system, since always, has been that the way is it's either me or you. I want more power. I want to control you. That's a very masculine and full of testosterone way of living and thinking. I think that our wish, and I'm not so like naive in a sense that, you know, nothing matters and we all live together and love each other. People are people. Even I see my my dogs, how they react to other dogs. Like, there are things in our nature, but everyone is suffering from war and from tension. And it is, as I see it, never the interests of the ordinary people that want to live their lives. And the only way to progress as societies is to be in good terms with the rest of the people around you. If you take me, for example, you know, you hear a lot of things about Israel and how we think that we are the chosen people and we are the best, strongest, and we have America and whatever. I can tell you as a person, I've always feared. My body is stressed from living in Israel because since I was a child and my parents were here as children, there's always been war and terror, and the situation affects me in a very deep psychological way. So if we move away from all the who's to blame and who started, we are all suffering. And you know, you and I, we deal with culture, and culture can only happen when there is a good basis of peace and security and understanding. Now in Israel, the cinema is shrinking, you know, all the arts, because all the money is going to protection. Not that it helped anyone here, but no one wants that. That's what I think. I think that this perception of getting more money and more power is toxic. If I think now that there could be a chance of people like us changing it, I think there are bigger forces that actually make money from these unfortunate situations, that have an interest to keep things the way they are. And it's very sad.
Perfetto. And which role could women play in this framework for you?
Excuse me?
Which role could women play in this framework?
In this solution?
In this situation?
Women.
Yes.
Now women don't have power, enough power. In the Middle East, it is very clear, you know. It's not that in my Jewish country or state it is different. We don't have enough representation in the parliament, in the Israeli parliament. We don't get paid as much. We don't have this power. And in this very masculine system, the women that do get to be at the front sometimes are made from the same materials of this system. They are very like, you know, full of testosterone in order to get to the, you know, to their where they are. I think the perception should be feminine. it should be showing empathy to the pain of the other side. The Palestinians have been suffering for so many years from the Israeli occupation. That should be understood by Israelis. It is not a way for anyone to live, especially in Gaza. How women can solve it, I don't know, because I don't think they have now the power of being at the front of it. But I wish that women, mothers, I myself, I'm not a mother. I didn't choose to bring children to the world, but I think that we know how to solve things by a dialogue and by the understanding that everyone has to give up on things and sacrifice. It's like if you see two children fighting, and then the father would come and also get into the fight, and the other father. But you need the mother to say, hey, it doesn't matter who started. It doesn't matter. You're not going to get everything you wanted, and you're not going to get everything you wanted because you want the same thing. There is one land here. And we have to find a way in order to progress, to solve the situation and understand each other. I do believe that the dialogue is always important.
Absolutely. And what were some of the most memorable moments or encounters you had while making Egypt a love song, and how did they shape your perspective on the themes you were exploring?
I think the strongest, most effective moment for me was because, so in the film I have a few layers. I have my grandmother Suad's life story that I show through, first of all, her voice from interviews she gave, and she's talking about her life in Egyptian, and some scenes that you see actors performing a situation from her life, scripted scenes. And then I had a journey with my father, as you said before, where I took my father to different places and had conversations with him, inspired by the location that we are, that is connected to my grandmother and his life story. And at some moment, unfortunately, I couldn't go to Egypt, but at some point we did go to New York, because this is where my father's father lived. And he was still performing there, playing the qanun to Syrians and a lot of communities, both Jewish and Muslim communities. And at some point, my father is he's a psychologist, and he's always on top of things. He's very he talks about things, and he has everything sorted out as a psychologist. But then when I took him to his father's real, authentic apartment in Brooklyn, where Muhammad lived, and he started talking about Muhammad as his son that Muhammad abandoned when my father was 3 and didn't see him until the age of 17. He kind of reflected on Muhammad's life experience with him. And I saw my father breaking down from the understanding that his father wasn't a good parent always. And for me, as his daughter, that took her father on a journey for my film, for my, ambition, and I broke his heart. As a child, I kind of made him a bit separated from his father. That for me was very hard emotionally, to see my father as a child, sad, vulnerable. So it was something that I had to deal with. But at the end of the day, when my father watched the entire film and went through this entire journey, he gained so much, because first of all, he was always embarrassed about the background in Israel. He would say that he wasn't, but in a way it was hard for him to say, I'm half Arab, I'm half Muslim, in this country that is very not accepting otherness towards its Jewish, identity. At the end of the day, it was for him a relief to be embraced by people this way. And also, a lot of people connected with my father. He received a lot of phone calls to his home. People looked him up on the internet, messaged him after it was broadcasted in Israel, just to say, you touched our heart, and we were crying with you, and we were laughing with you, and we love you. So I think that for him, at the end of the day, this film was something that gave him a lot of strength. Also because the life of Suad was also something that was very heavy on him. And the fact that she was supposed to be a very big singer in Egypt, and gave up on it. And then in this film, I gave her again I put her on stage, beautiful young singer, and for him that means a lot. So it was hard for me, but that's the result was good after all.
When I saw your film, I cried a lot. It's very, very beautiful, a beautiful love story. And Iris, give me your definition of love.
Definition of love.
Give me
Wow.
your definition of love.
It's I think that one of my maybe problems or challenges is that love for me is very much related to parenting and my parents. I think that's the biggest love. I'm sorry to say that and disappoint the romantic love. That's how I was brought up. For me, it's also the Egyptian way, by the way. For my grandmother, Suad, my father was everything. She loved him in a way that he came before her. And it was such a never-ending amount of love. And my parents, for me, are the same. They are the biggest love of my life. I have a boyfriend. But this love of between parents and kids, it's like home. It's this universe that exists between two people. The romantic love is very complicated, especially today when everything is moving so fast in the world, and there is so much to offer, and all the apps, and a lot of people, and people, they don't always have the patience of really investing in love and relationship. And people today are we are in the center of our interests. So I think that the romantic love is less, in a way, romantic to me than between parents and children. But I didn't bring any children, so maybe it says something about how I'm attracted to it, but I'm very scared of it at the same time.
We are excited to hear your insights and experiences, Iris Zaki, and thank you for joining us today. And I love very much your film Egypt a Love Song.
It's my dream to reach Egyptian audiences and the Arab world. I think that, you know, I don't need to tell you that Egypt was the capital of cinema and music and culture, and there are a lot of followers in the Arab world, people that love this beautiful golden age in Egypt of cinema and music. And I think that 60% of my film perhaps is in Arabic, in Egyptian, and it's full of Arabic music. I love the fact that I bring it to like European countries or Americans, and they have to listen to a lot of Arabic music, Egyptian music. But I think that really the natural audience is in the Arab world, and it's my dream to reach this audience and bring them this beautiful love story, love to also to Egypt, to this music. And if we talked about how the world today is so crazy, to these old days where when everything was more simple, and when a beautiful young Egyptian Muslim musician fell in love with a beautiful Egyptian Jewish diva singer, and they created my father. And that is a message that should always be shown, not only documentaries of Netflix about wars and about murderers and about political divisions. We should bring this love and art to the front as well. So I really, really hope I will have this bridge to my other home, Egypt.
Iris, Egypt is the mother of the world. It's called the mother of the world for the culture.
No.
So I hope that all people appreciated this film. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.